So I moved here to Colorado Springs from Phoenix, Arizona 3 months ago, and while I was unpacking my household goods, I came across a box that I've been hauling around with me for the last 24 years. And in this box I have a bunch of keepsakes and mementos that I've accumulated throughout my career in the Air Force. And for whatever reason that afternoon, I decided to take the proverbial trek down memory lane. And as I was going through all of this stuff and reminiscing a little bit, I came across a newspaper article. Specifically, it was a commentary written in 1997 by Colonel Mark Bloom. And in the article, Colonel Bloom, who at that time was just wrapping up a long and distinguished career in the Army, he reflected back on his career, and he came up with a list of things that he would do differently if he could go back to the very beginning and do it all over again. And in doing so, he recounted some advice given to him by one of his mentors earlier in his career. And this advice dealt with something I suspect each and every one of us at one time or another has had to deal with, and that is maintaining a healthy balance between our work life and our family life. And at the heart of this advice was the notion that if you can understand and appreciate and apply the difference between that which is important and that which is urgent, you will be better able to make healthy decisions as you deal with the competing priorities that you do from day to day. So while I was reading the article again, it struck a chord with me, much like it did the first time I read it. However, now some 20 years later, as someone who is very close to retiring myself, I was inspired in a different way. I was inspired to come up with my own list of things I would do differently if I could go back to January 1994 and relive my entire career all over again. And unfortunately, and despite having Colonel Bloom's words on my fingertips for the better part of 2 decades, I'm a little embarrassed to say my list far too much resembles his. For I too would have tried a lot harder to get home from work every day at a reasonable hour, so as not to miss as many important family events as I did. Baseball games, after-school plays, parent-teacher conferences, birthday celebrations, even family vacations. At one point or another in my career, I'd miss them all. And sometimes that was unavoidable, and I'm certainly not saying everyone should blow off work at every opportunity, but I will tell you, as sure as I'm standing here, more often than not, I simply thought I was doing what was expected of me. I thought I was exhibiting service before self, when the fact is, I was failing time and time again to understand, appreciate, and apply the difference between that which is important and that which is urgent. Around the same time that I rediscovered this article, my family and I created a memory that I will never forget. Our youngest child, my daughter, started college not far from here. And in the days leading up to her first day of school, she became increasingly nervous, and that's understandable. This is a big change in her life. And we were all very excited when we found out she could bring 2 guests with her to her orientation that first week. My wife and I were particularly excited to be there to support her and help her get registered for classes, learn her way around the campus, and kind of get settled into a routine. We all had our matching sweatshirts. It was perfect. So here's my memory from that day. I received it via text message while sitting in a staff meeting with the caption, "I love you, Dad, wish you were here." Now, was that staff meeting important? Sure it was. Did my presence there change the outcome or inform any major decision that was made? I'm equally certain that wasn't the case. If I could go back to the beginning and do things differently, I would also, on those days where I did tear myself away from the office, I would have left work at work. I cannot tell you how many times I allowed built-up frustrations distract from or otherwise ruin what should have been enjoyable times with my family. If I could do it all over again, I would be more forgiving and understanding of those closest to me. it is equally incomprehensible and indefensible that I could so easily and so regularly accept minor mistakes, inconveniences, last-minute changes, and perceived slights from those who work for me and those who work with me. But time and time again, failed so miserably to do it when it applied to those who loved and supported me the most. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would make better use of the leave afforded me and take my family back home to visit their grandparents, aunts and uncles, and cousins way more often. I've been in the Air Force for 24 years, and for 21 of those years, I have been in a use-or-lose status as it pertains to leave. From my 4th year to my 10th year, I lost leave almost every single year. And it was right around that time that the Air Force started cracking down on folks losing leave. And then from that point on, I would wait till every September rolled around, hastily schedule leave, often at the most inconvenient times, just to avoid losing it. And more often than not, I would come in on those days of leave anyway, or I'd simply burn the leave on weekends or holidays, days that I would have been off anyway. If I could go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't have made my wife wait 20 years for me to take her to ballroom dance lessons. Quite literally, for 20 years, she asked me each and every year to take her to ballroom dance lessons. And for 20 years, I had an excuse. And for 20 years, she pretended to understand. So this is the same woman who, for a quarter century, has followed me around the world, left jobs that she loved, left behind friends that she'll likely never see again, and homes that she poured her heart and soul into to create for us. And all she wanted to do was go dancing. Eventually, I relented. Who knew I would have liked it so much, let alone be so darn good at it? Nowadays, I actually have to drag her out on weekends to go dancing. The last thing I would do if I could go back and do it all over again is I would ask for help when I needed it. Our middle child, my son, has been dealing with severe mental health illness most of his life. From the time he was 12 until this very day, he's 24 now, he has been in and out of mental health treatment facilities, often for months, if not years at a time. His condition manifested itself in many ways, to include self-harm and mutilation, multiple suicide attempts, self-medication with alcohol and even drugs. At its worst, what he was going through jeopardized my marriage, our family, and most certainly his life. Now, those are words that until this very day I've never spoken out loud before. Never told a boss, never a friend or a wingman, never a chaplain or a counselor. Like others who are self-absorbed, I made this situation about me. I internalized how it would make me look as a parent, or God forbid, as an officer or a commander. We talk a lot in the Air Force about comprehensive airman fitness, about taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would practice what I have so often preached. The sacrifices that come with military service are many, and they are great, and they are shared equally by all members of the military family. Unfortunately for my family, they had to shoulder much more of that burden than they otherwise should have. Service before self is one of our core values, and it means a great deal. To me, it means never allowing personal desires or wants or conveniences to come before the needs of the mission, or to come before the needs of those who are under our charge. But it does not mean forsaking our responsibilities as parents, as sons and daughters, as brothers and sisters, as friends, and as contributing members of society. Colonel Bloom said it should be each and every one of our goals to run out of career before we run out of family. And based on where I'm at today, I just might achieve that goal, though it will be despite my best efforts to the contrary. So I will leave you with this. Go put in your leave request. Leave your work at work. Surround yourself with friends and family. Maybe take a trip back home. Or just go dancing. Whatever you do, don't wait until September to do it. Thank you very much.